Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you travel a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show. I haven't seen her for weeks. I feel like she's been busy. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you? I know, you go through periods where you'll have a lot of flights or something, we don't hear from you. And then you inundate us with texts. And it's like, we're working, Chris and I are working. And then all of a sudden, Steve's got some time on his hands and text. So I feel like this week, at one point this week, you were in your little, I've got time. I'm going to text you guys all weekend long or whatever.
Yeah, I've had the last 5 days off. I just wanted to know why Figment's feet were so big in the plush that they put out there.
That's a good question. I don't know. I did not buy it.
You did.
I was like, what am I going to do with it? I already have my popcorn bucket. I had to restrain.
You just sell it on eBay, I guess, eventually at some point.
Yeah, but there's a lot left. All that merch was still left like the next day. So I think they weren't quite expecting the hurricane.
Well, let's jump into our topic today. We are going to bring a guest on. This is always kind of fun to do because in our weird little Twitterverse that we have, our Disney Twitterverse, I guess I'm part of. You get to know people on Twitter for years, and then you finally get to talk to them and meet them either through a Zoom call or on board the ships. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the ships, but I'd like to welcome him to the show today, all the way out in Cleveland, Ohio, the great state of Ohio. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We are going to talk about the most controversial ship in the Disney fleet, the Disney Wish.
It's kind of funny.
Yes, it is. It seems to be that way.
You know what? I've kind of wrapped my head around the fact that like everybody's got to have opinion on it, which I guess everybody has opinion on every ship or something like that. But I think she's a beautiful ship. And we're going to get your opinion on it today. But before we jump in to talk about that, why don't you give us a little bit about your family's Disney background and how did you guys find Disney cruising?
Both, my wife and I, high school sweethearts, middle of junior year of high school. So we've been together for quite a while. Both our families went growing up. I was the every other year spring break. My parents were teachers. So every other spring break, we'd go down. Her family did the same thing. Dating through high school and into college, she went with my family. I'd go with her family. Ended up getting engaged, married, honeymoon in Disney, and then started kind of a yearly trip with her and I. About 2 years in, turned into, might as well look at DVC. So bought into DVC in 2010. That's when annual passes were actually affordable and DVC members got discounts. So we went quite often, started having kids, took them. And then probably spring of 2019, she pitched the idea of a cruise. I had never been on one. She had been on one, actually it's funny, with my parents and my sister back. It was the Disney Dreams second sailing they were on. And I had no interest. It was the middle of kind of my work season. She went, they enjoyed it. I'd never thought anything about it. I'd never go on a cruise, so no interest. DCL put out a 10% deposit. I said, you know what, might as well try it. Got it, went on 4-night dream sailing, May of 19. About 2 hours into the sailing, I said, you know what, this is it. And we were hooked. Went on one more end of 19, took the kids and my parents in the January of 2020. They loved it. And then we booked Alaska, May of 2020, dream trip. And then the world ended for the next 18 months, it seemed like. And we researched cruising, looked at it during the pandemic. And then I think this was our third sailing since the restart. We have been officially hooked.
I would say.
Chrissy, I know you want to ask about the honeymoon, so go ahead.
Actually, fun fact. Wilderness Lodge, we were in 4 rooms in the matter of first 2 hours at the resort. So it was a great start to the honeymoon. First room wasn't clean. Second room was a handicap accessible room with the mattress pretty much on the floor. Third room had neighbors that were banging on walls. And then they finally upgraded us to a suite, essentially overlooking the lobby and kind of the geyser point area. And so we're in 4 different rooms in a matter of 2 hours to start the honeymoon.
That is not a good way to start, but
it was a great trip. But yeah, it was an interesting start to the trip.
Your wife being on that dream, the second sailing of the dream, I don't even know how to ask this. I guess, was she like cognizant? I mean, because like now we're going to talk about the Wish, and the Wish just came out and people were really excited to sail on her, just when she first came out here. Was your wife cognizant of the fact that it was like the second sailing of the dream?
They weren't. My dad actually found, and it was weird, Disney had some promotion even that early in the dream sailings where it was buy 2, get 2 free.
Huh.
And they took maybe it was buy three, get one free, but my wife was going essentially for nothing. And she was close to my sister, so it made sense. And again, I was going to be traveling, and it was funny. We were actually she was pregnant with our first child at the time. So they went and they had an absolute blast, 4 of them in a veranda stateroom. My dad's, funny enough, the only one that didn't love it. The other ones loved it, but then they never went back on until 2020 with us.
And so let's talk about this cruise on the Disney Wish. You cruised with your family and your parents or your in-laws?
My parents. My parents live about a mile and a half up the road. With our work schedules, I travel. My wife's quite busy, so my parents' house is essentially the kids' second house. They have their own rooms there. They'd rather be there than our house. So we travel together when we can. It's kind of a thank you to what mom and dad do for us. So opening day for DVC members back in, it had to have been May of 2021, I believe it was. They released DVC openings. Got a hold of my travel agent at the time, and she waited on hold forever because we needed 2 rooms. And she was able to pull some strings and get us 2 rooms off of 1 DVC membership. And so we booked it way back in May of 2021 and waited for 15 months of all the limited previews Disney would release. And then watched probably every vlog of everybody that was on it, including yours in July, and learned as much as we could. So I'm not one that likes to be surprised. I wanted to know, taking 6 other people, I wanted to know what we were walking into when we got on the ship. And I thought we had a pretty good idea what we were in for when we got on.
How old are your children that cruised with you?
My sons are 6 and 9, and our daughter's 11. She turned 11 the day we got off of the Wish. So she is now 11 going on 21.
Not having a daughter, but I've heard the stories. I think I can understand that. Well, what were you? So you're obviously being a DVC member, a longtime Disney, going to Disney World and everything like that, being a planner, as you kind of have already said. What were you excited about doing, and what did you guys have planned ahead of time for this cruise?
Only thing we really had planned, we knew, was Apollo brunch. My parents, when we went in 2020 on the Dream, we didn't go to Apollo. So we knew we wanted to do a brunch. And other than that, we wanted to just explore the ship as much as we could. We were hoping the kids were more into the kids clubs this time than in 2020. Our youngest was only 4 at the time, wasn't thrilled with it because he wasn't. Our other son didn't love it. And our daughter partook a little bit, but again, it wasn't a ton for her. She was now at the age where we could sign the waiver, and she got to go to, the preteen club. So we just were excited to see if they wanted to explore that side of the ship, that side of cruising, because they've gone to the parks. They knew they liked those. But we wanted to see if they liked cruising as much as we did. And from listening to everybody, the kids club is such a part of that for kids that age. So we were really curious to see if they would enjoy it as much as we were hoping they would. And they did. Spoiler.
And that makes it such a great vacation for everybody. So the kids get to have their vacation. The parents get to have vacation. Everybody gets to reconvene for meals and, some activities, but everybody gets what they want on vacation, which I think is the best part about cruising. So you mentioned Apollo brunch. Were you able to book that ahead of the cruise?
We actually were. We it was funny. We could get 2 people. We could never get 4. Yeah, and then we were staying up until midnight to do our 30-day check-in. In our Facebook group, somebody posted, "Hey, Apollo just opened up." So at 11:58 of midnight of day 30, we jumped on in a 4-person reservation. It opened up for, I think it was 11 or 11:30 for Nassau Day. So we grabbed it, and
perfect.
It worked out perfect.
Well, that's great, because that's almost like, as far as Disney cruising goes in terms of what you can do on the ship, I feel like that's the white whale of the cruise. Like if you can get Apollo brunch, like that's, it's such a hard reservation to come by.
So let's just stay with brunch here for just a second. We'll talk about it. But Christy, do you think, there's no right or wrong answer here, but, saying thank you to, your parents and as far as the dinner goes, or a time to spend time together, without the kids sort of in that kind of adult space. Do you think brunch is better than dinner as far as Paula goes for that? And Steve, what did you think?
We haven't done dinner. To be honest, we didn't, again, with only having 2 cruises pre-pandemic, the new a la carte menu at dinner doesn't seem to interest us a ton. My wife is quite picky when it comes to food. So brunch food just frankly suits us better. And my dad's not really eclectic when it comes to food. So I think the brunch, I'm not sure we could have had dinner if we wanted. That was actually available pretty much almost any night we wanted for the 4 of us. I kept checking, and there wasn't much interest in the menu from our group. So brunch was pretty much the only option for us.
I guess where I was kind of thinking about this is like, it's a little bit more casual, right? Going to brunch versus having dinner as far as like spending that time together. Am I right?
Yeah, maybe. But the thing about dinner is I think maybe that menu could be a little bit intimidating. I mean, we're not even talking about enchanté, which is super intimidating, but it's a steakhouse. Like, do people go to steakhouses typically at home? And that's going to kind of, or do they ever, is this like a nice dinner out? Like, is a person's fanciest dinner and all they're going to want Olive Garden? Then maybe not. But like, it is not, you can do steak and potatoes and a salad and dessert. And like, you can have it be as simple as your regular steakhouse meal. So I think it's just a matter of trying to figure out that menu, because you can still do the prefix menu, or you can just pay out a la carte and split some things and do stuff like that. So I think that it might be intimidating, but it shouldn't be, if that makes sense. I think
the other part for us going on to the Wish, we wanted to make sure we experienced each night's restaurant that we hadn't been to. And as much as we don't really love Pirate Night menu, my son was just emphatic that we couldn't miss Pirate Night, even though we got there and he didn't eat anything, of course, because he's got a pickier palate than my wife does. So I think that probably played part of it. We're scheduled to go on a cruise here in a month, just her and I, and we're looking at maybe doing our first Palo dinner and picking a night, because it's on the Dream and we've hit every restaurant and we're not overly concerned if we've missed one of them. But I think that might have been part of it as well, of going on the Wish. We wanted to make sure we hit each restaurant. We could have chosen Pirate Night, but again, I think and then if the kids didn't love the kids club for whatever reason, now all of a sudden we're kind of stuck in limbo of, can we get a 2-hour gap of having them in the kids club and not worrying about going to pick them up from dinner, where we figured kind of that 11 o'clock time range, go to breakfast, go to the pool for a little bit, and then we can go ahead and shove them off in the club for an hour and a half, go eat, and not have to worry about going to grab them.
All kind of good ideas there for people to think about when they're sailing on the Wish or sailing on a 4-night cruise too. That is maybe the first time they've sailed on that ship. I guess just to finish it out, how was brunch?
It was fantastic. We had, as everybody said, service at dinner was suspect all week. Our service at brunch was the best I've had on any of my 6 sailings now at any meal we've had. He was fantastic. He made jokes the entire time, was self-deprecating, made my dad feel comfortable, who, again, doesn't love real fancy dinners or dining experiences. He was able to read the table really, really quick and then figure out that my wife probably could order off a kid's menu and be just fine. I was able to get her what she needed. He was absolutely fantastic. So,
do you remember who you had?
He was from South Africa. I believe his name was Michael. It's funny. It's weird. As I was preparing to come on here, I was trying to remember his name, and I looked through my phone, because that's how, of course, we keep track of his pictures. And we didn't take a picture with him, so I didn't have his name tag, but he was absolutely fantastic. So we were sitting next to a Carnival ship in port at Nassau, and he said he was actually on one of those ships and made fun of Carnival for the next half hour in just small, subtle ways. And then he said how much he loved his experience there, but how much better the Disney experience was. So it was he made everybody feel comfortable, everybody have a good time, and the hour and I think 45 minutes went by in a blink of an eye.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the servers up there are just amazing. And I'm glad that, I mean, he can pick up, that's what's amazing, that they can pick up on what your family needs and then just kind of run with it. Christy, why don't you get us on the ship?
Okay. So you've been planning this cruise. The ship finally set sail. You guys are getting excited. When did you come down for the cruise? Did you come in advance?
Flights this summer were ridiculously high. We had time in the summer. So I stalked Vero Beach for an inordinate amount of time. My wife and I experienced it for the first time back in May, and I fell in love with it. And we'd never been there. We'd never used our points there. It never made sense. We hadn't cruised much. And we were able to get 2 studios for all 7 of us, spent 2 days there, and my kids could have spent a week there. And I don't think they would have complained. The pool was awesome. They went up and down that water slide, conservatively 125 times in 2 days. It was up and down. The resort was great. Cast members, fantastic. So we went there first. Got there on a Saturday around noon, and then obviously got on the ship Monday.
Do you not tell all these DVC members about Vero Beach? That's a hidden secret we got to keep.
I tell you what, it may have been one of your podcasts that I'm like, we got to try it before our cruise back in May, and I'm not sure any cruise out of Canaveral we will not try to get there first.
We felt the same way. I think my wife and I went down there by ourselves first and just fell in love with it. We're like, okay, every cruise that we can when we go back there, we want to stay there.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a great place. All right, so you guys get on the Disney Wish, quite a bit different than the Disney Dream as you walk in the Grand Hall. What was your family's take as you guys first walked on the Disney Wish?
To us, it was almost a combination of the Grand Floridian and the Beach Club. Elegant. It felt like you were at a resort on sea. But then they had some of the lighter parts of Beach Club where it kind of, again, had the beachy, small nautical themes to it. But I've heard somebody explain to it that it's a resort rather than a ship. And it really had that feel. And walked on and, listened to their little show up on the stage and our magic wands. And it was fun. And my wife's and I tradition was on the Dream is always to head Bon Voyage and get our first little drink there. So I had to figure out which bar we were going to hit because there's no Bon Voyage. So went and got her, my mother, and I a drink at Tiana's and then started exploring the ship from there.
What were your first impressions?
It was, gorgeous is the right word. It was more stunning than it is in the pictures and the videos we had seen. I loved the atrium of the fantasy and the Dream, but I loved the Grand Hall. I really did. I didn't have any problem with it. I thought it was, at nighttime, the fiber optic lights were great. I thought the stage area they did the shows on were fantastic. So I just thought they did a great job of encompassing, I think, what they wanted to. I think they wanted a classier resort style ship. I thought the Grand Hall they hit a home run with that for sure.
I'm hesitant to ask this question because of, I don't want to put it towards like one gender, but you get your wife and your daughter. Your daughter's get a little bit older now, with Cinderella in the lobby. Did they gravitate towards that? Was that something special to them?
My wife did. It's funny. My daughter actually, we've nicknamed her Cinderella in certain realms. So she's come to actually not love that nickname as much, but no, she did. She walked in and she's at the age now where anything that mom and dad think are cool, she's not allowed to think is nice. But even her, I could catch her at times looking around and realizing how neat and special it was. And she wanted her magic wand, which I wasn't sure she would take initially, but she definitely fell into the part of being more 6 and 7 years old at that time, which was nice to see.
So you guys are a family of 5. Yep. What type of cabin do you guys gravitate towards?
My wife and I have only stayed in veranda rooms. The 2 cruises we've taken with everybody, we've gotten connecting veranda rooms. So that was kind of a must for us. I mean, the price difference on any of the Dream class or now the Wish, the price difference is a couple $100. So we got two connecting veranda staterooms on deck 9. We like to stay as high as we can. Typically, this is actually the first time I haven't been on deck 10 between the Dream Fantasy and the Wish. Those the only 2 connecting rooms we could get. So we were right by the elevators on deck 9.
Did you guys did you have your stateroom host open up the connection between your balconies?
Yeah, it was the first thing we did.
Because we talked about something recently where they said that they wouldn't do it for them. We have to launch on that?
I don't remember.
It wasn't on the Wish.
So some of the cabins can't be open though. So some of the locks can't really be opened. Obviously, there's the problem where not every connecting cabin, just in general, your balcony doesn't connect. So that is just a complicated feature of the Disney Wish.
We actually had the last 2 rooms, the last room before the bump out and the first room when it started to bump out to where they weren't considered the extended family verandas, but our veranda had an extra, I'd say probably 25 or 30 square feet of space. So we had kind of that first little spot, which was nice to have. But yeah, that the balcony piece of it is how we could kind of check to see if the other stateroom was up in the morning. My parents are early risers, so they didn't want to open the connecting door until we made sure our boys were up. And so that's how the boys or my daughter would kind of peek between the rooms. The boys stayed with us. My daughter stayed with my parents. So it was kind of that veranda was a nice way for them to be able to kind of peek in the window. And if the shades were open, they knew how the room was up in the morning. That's
kind of a perfect way too, as far as what'd you guys think of the rooms?
Walked in and outside of the storage, I thought the rooms were a home run. It's funny on Dream and Fantasy, right by outside the bathroom door, there's the little drawers with the shelves. That's where all of my stuff goes. So I had the biggest problem not having that there because that's where, Key the World card would go or my phone or anything else like that. Outside of that, we thought the rooms were an absolute home run. We liked the bigger TV. It was big enough to where the kids could lay in their beds and still see it. And it wasn't a problem not having the smaller one in their room. We don't watch a ton of TV in the room. We'll throw a classic Disney movie on just as we're getting ready. And over the course of 6 or 7 times in the room, we'll watch maybe an hour and a half movie, in 10 or 12-minute chunks. My wife will throw Peter Pan on, or one of the ones that we're not going to watch at home. That part was great. The bathrooms, the non-shower curtain's a huge plus for me. Stay in hotels quite a bit, and anytime I can get a non-shower curtain and actually have a door was great. Yes, the rest of the beds were extremely comfortable, and I thought they were done elegantly without smacking you in the face with what they were trying to theme. We had a Sleeping Beauty and a Tiana room, and I thought they were done really, really well.
That's fun too, that they were different.
Yes, we weren't sure. We're trying to look ahead of time, and there was only, 5 or 6 cruises, so there weren't a ton of rooms being reviewed at the places we had looked, and so we weren't really sure what we were getting. And being different, it was nice to have as many pictures as we like to take and kind of have for our records. It was nice to have 2 different looks.
And if anybody's new to looking up Disney Wish content, basically we're referring to the artwork in the cabins. So it's not like, I don't know, make it or break it what your artwork is, but there's 2 different artworks on each floor. Basically, in your cabin, they'll switch between which one you have. And it's just kind of a fun surprise to walk in and see, do you have Moana? Do you have Tiana? Who's in your cabin?
Quick side note, I thought they had the great artwork on the ship. Up and down the stairs. They have my favorite painting I think I've seen on any of the ships or in the parks, and it's the 4 ships waiting for the dream or for the wish to come in. I saw that. At some point that will make its way into our house for sure.
Yeah, so you can actually buy that artwork and others, artwork of the wish, in the art kiosk that is on the 5th floor over by guest services. With
7 people, our stateroom accounts had grown pretty high.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So there's a chance where it's maybe a little bit lower to add that to our bill.
Absolutely.
We found ways to spend a lot of money on this ship.
They have planned that on purpose, I think, in some ways, the way they did it. And I'm not throwing any shade on it, but I was going to buy it too, except for Christy kept me up too late at night drinking. So my bill was a little bit too high too. So
all of ours were. Man, that was the thing with that ship, is you could spend some money.
We're not the ones to show how to cruise economically on the ship. That is
well, we've never done that one to have the whole blowout. Chrissy and Amber talk about how to do it economically. So maybe you and I need to do
find one on how to blowout. I can join them there. We can find ways to do that.
Well, let's turn to food. If there's nothing else about the room, then let's turn to food. You got 3 new restaurants to try out: Worlds of Marvel, Arendelle, and 1923. I'll let you just kind of step through each one of them and talk about what you thought about them.
We started in Arendelle, and I think it's by far our favorite on any of the ships. I thought the show was fantastic. I'm not a big dinner show guy by any means, but I thought the cast in there, Oaken was probably the star of the entire cruise. I thought he was fantastic. The food was good. It wasn't great. I think it's kind of a theme for the entire week. The show absolutely, kind of stole the night. And I thought they did a great job. The theming was good. Being night 1, everything was great. We weren't going to find faults in anything, to be honest. But we had a great time. The service was probably a sign of things to come for the rest of the week. But it was, the kids had a blast. Characters were, so interactive and found a way. It was amazing with the size of the restaurant to really feel like they interacted with every table. So I thought they hit it on the park there. 1923, food was probably the best of the week. But again, everybody has said how tightly packed that restaurant is. There was just so little room to move. I felt bad for the servers trying to get around. We had a table of 7, and we were kind of off on the side by by a porthole window. So it was nice. It was tough to see the theming in there. We actually went for a sit-down breakfast just to try to see the theming because there weren't as many people in there. And then Worlds of Marvel, I thought we're not.
Wait, you had sit-down breakfast at Arendelle?
No, sorry, 1923.
Okay.
I jumped to 1923. Sorry. No, we had a 1923. And then Worlds of Marvel, we're not huge Marvel people. We're starting to get into it more. My boys love superheroes without seeing a whole bunch of the movies. I got sick a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, and ended up watching. I was in bed for 2 days and watched all the Marvel movies. So I got to know some of the storylines. So we knew some of what we were walking into, and I thought the story was done well. I thought it was, had bits of adult humor, which were good, that, maybe the kids didn't pick up on that the adults did, but the kids were entertained the entire time. I'm not sure on the repeatability factor for us going back. That might be one that if it was just, my wife and I, we might skip and hit Palo. But, again, the food was good enough. Nobody left hungry by any means. I thought it was themed fantastically. Anytime you throw Paul Rudd into a show, it's going to turn into be pretty entertaining.
He is funny. I mean, even as somebody who hasn't watched a Marvel movie ever,
He's dry, sarcastic, and I think
they make that funny.
They did.
I've been trying to wrap my head a little bit about was there a lot of people earning their ears, crew members?
No, there wasn't. I don't know if it was they were just down cast members.
Maybe they're just not even putting those on the people anymore. Maybe they just don't want people to know.
We tried building the relationship with the assistant server a little bit. And it was just the small, simple things of not getting drinks for 20 minutes. And we looked around, they had 4 tables. They didn't, so it wasn't that they were overwhelmed.
Yeah, but you were a table of 7.
Yes.
When there's 4 tables and one of them has 7 and the other ones probably have 6 or more, that's a lot. Think about,
we felt so bad. We're the last ones ever complained about service. We're never gonna. Kids were thirsty. They would just wait or drink some one of our waters. So we're just not the people. My mom was a waitress through high school, so in college. So it was just kind of ingrained in me growing up that look, they've got a ton going on. But it was noticeably different than other cruises we had been on. And we kind of chalked it up to where the restaurants are tight. They're trying to time it around a dinner show between Arendelle and then, the Worlds of Marvel. They're trying, one of the tables next to us had asked why they didn't have their entrees. And they were flat out told, we're trying to time it to where you can eat during a portion of the show. When you're trying to time that many people's meals at the exact same time, when there's small differences in meals, my wife's going to ask for a substitution here or there. It's impossible to do. And people were complaining how long it was taking. Well, the show piece of it's an hour and 35, hour and 40 minutes by the time you're done. So that part was a little frustrating with 3 kids. It was probably a little more exaggerated on our end, but we didn't have, it didn't ruin our trip by any means.
I guess it's just all things for people to kind of be aware of, because it's
what's one of your guys' things? Pack your
patience.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's just a thing to be aware of. And I was thinking about that too, because it's so tight. I noticed that, in the other ships, the servers will come up to each person and ask what they want. But a lot of times, because it's so tight, they're, yelling across the table. And I shouldn't say yell, but, they're talking across the table. Sure. And so it definitely, you don't get that feeling that special feeling, I guess, that we've all had on the other ships, I guess, when you've gone to dinner.
They had, again, one other cruise our kids had been on, the night 2, drinks were sitting at the table for them by the time they got there. Now they got to us by night 3 with that. The night 4 they had forgotten. But I took it as, again, 6th sailing of their fleet, of the Wishes sailing, and other people were more perturbed around us. And I'm saying we're easygoing, but the same token, just what are you going to complain about? You're sitting on a ship floating in the ocean. If you're going to find something to complain about, go ahead.
I guess what'll be interesting is to see how it goes, a year from now, and see how it goes. I would assume that it's going to be a little bit more well-oiled, kind of like the rest of the fleet.
Since we've just done evening dinner, let's stay in the evening and talk about the shows. Did you guys see any shows?
We went to Seas of the Adventure the first night.
Did you love it?
It was much, much better than I thought.
Well, that is not a high praise.
I think it took their quote unquote jukebox type shows with all the Disney themes and elevated it times 100. I thought they did a great job with it. I thought that adding the characters that you don't typically see around the ships or in any of the shows, I thought they did a great job highlighting them.
Like Hercules.
Hercules was hilarious.
They can highlight him all the time.
It's funny. That was our first night on board, and the kids wanted to go to the kids club, so they didn't come to the show with us. So, and I thought they would have loved that show the most. But it was just, my parents, my wife, and myself, and we had an absolute blast with it. And it was actually the only show my wife and I went to see. Aladdin wasn't running yet for us. And then I think it was Little Mermaid. My parents, was the last night. My wife and I we were tired, but the kids were in the kids club, and we just decided we were going to head to Tiana's and sit at the bayou and sit there. And we hadn't gone and had a cocktail in the evening, just the 2 of us at that point. And I didn't need to see the show a ton. And so the kids went to the kids club last night, and we sat at bayou and had some drinks, and my parents went to the show. My mom loved the show that night.
Oh, good.
We'll go watch it, but the shows are entertaining, but we've got to be, I guess, in the mood to go sit there and watch them. We've never seen a bad one by any means, but I'd almost rather go sit up on deck and watch Funnel Vision and just be cruising through the nighttime sky than anything else. kind of my vibe on cruises and shows. I feel like we can almost see anywhere. And again, I know they're not all Disney Broadway type shows, but
that's a good point. And that's a tough day too, because we did the exact same thing, didn't we, Christy? We were like, do you want to go? It's like, no, we'd rather just go hang out together and talk because with our group. And so
it was Castaway Day for us. We were, it was a long 4 days that was filled with a ton of fun and a lot of bingo for us. So it was time to just, kind of go sit there and relax. And to be honest, neither of us had ever had a beignet anywhere. Never been down to New Orleans. So we wanted to go. We'd never had one. We'd never been where they had any of them. And I'm not sure we'd ever go out of our way to have another one. But it was funny. It's like, let's go try a beignet. And then, of course, mix a few cocktails in with it and hung out, listened to some live music. And that's one thing we did miss. Our cruise did not have any live music in the Grand Hall. The sailing before us had it. The sailing after us had it. Ours had no live music in the Grand Hall. And that's something, again, on the other ships, we'll go sit there, before or after dinner and listen to the violinists or the pianos. And so we wanted to hear just some small live music, and they had a little three-piece band and going on there. So we listened to that for a little bit and kind of hung out.
Let's kind of continue with that then. What were some of the other things that you guys did as a family, or that you and your wife did, or you and your parents?
We have to stick with the evening. We're not done with the evening yet.
Not done with the evening. We would the kids go to the kids club and we'd go hang up on deck. We'd go watch a little bit of the funnel vision. Nighttime, by honest, my parents go to bed quite early, by early, 8:30, 9 o'clock. We're up a little bit later. And again, it was kind of, we did what the kids wanted to do, to be honest. And if they were in the kids club, we would kind of go up on deck and hang out. The nights that they wanted to hang with us, we would kind of go watch funnel vision for a little bit. There wasn't a ton we did at night.
Where did you hang out at night?
We'd go up on deck 11. We'd go kind of watch funnel vision when they had the chairs out kind of on the side. Is the kids didn't love the pools as much. We have, my parents have a pool at their house, so they swim over the summer, and the pools are always pretty crowded. So there wasn't a ton going on there. So we hang out there. The one night we went and explored into the adult, over by the Cove Cafe. It took an hour and a half and a compass to go find it, but we finally found it. And so we hung out there for a little bit. Other than that, we didn't do much in the evenings. We're not real late night people, and we explored. We did Hyperspace Lounge during the day, just kind of an open house. Star Wars really isn't our thing, so that didn't appeal to us a ton. And the drinks, nothing in there looked like it was anything that we absolutely had to do by any means.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not like much of a story there, and the drinks are, they try to go with the theming, and they're a little bit odd.
Nothing. I would say nothing grabbed a non-Star Wars fan. I don't think that I'm not saying that they're trying to grab non-Star Wars fans, but they definitely didn't attract us by any means at that point. We're more daytime entertainment people. Yeah, I guess so.
We're going to go to the daytime, but before we get there, what about the Pirate Parlay? Did you go to that?
We did. 5 people got to really enjoy it. My daughter had been given strict instructions on where to meet us because she was hanging out with some friends in the Edge Club, and I got a frantic text message where she couldn't find anybody. So just as it started, I got to go find her. Everybody else got to hang out and watch it. It was more entertaining, I think, at first for us than the original Pirate Night shows. But it was so packed. There was nowhere to move. And again, with current world situation, it almost nobody's been together that close that often. And it felt like people were sitting on top of each other for sure. I think if you like 80s kind of rock music, it was great. If you don't, I think you kind of hung out and waited for the fireworks. And I will say the fireworks I was able to make it back for. Fireworks were the best I've seen on any ship I've been on. I thought that piece is fantastic. The music I enjoyed. I may like the corny Mickey and Friends Pirate Night more so than the rock music, but I can definitely, it's not like I hated the rock music by any means. I think if I'm on the Wish, I'm going to watch that. And if I'm on one of the other ships, I'm going to watch the current show. I don't think I've got a strong dislike or, for any of them by any means. It was cool to see them try something different. Whether people love it or not, I'd rather see them try something different than do the same thing on a 5th ship rather than, again, come up with something innovative and new. And I thought the characters in it were fantastic. I thought they played their parts really, really well. I mean, the entertainment team's so good. They do such a good job on the ship when it comes to that stuff.
So it sounds like you guys did most of your activities during the day. We talked ahead of time that you guys didn't get off at NASA. What were so we'll kind of skip that NASA day. That's basically a day at sea for you guys staying on board the ship. How'd you guys spend your days? Like, where'd you guys eat breakfast? And then what were some of the things you did during the days?
First couple days, we did kind of Marceline Market just to get the kids started, and we found it quite crowded, to be honest. So Nassau Day, when we did brunch, we made sure the kids got something in the morning. We ate something kind of light, and then we got them to Kids Club, went to Palo. And then we wanted to do the sit down in 1923, so again, we could see the theming of the restaurants. We did that, and that was, I tell you what, we've done sit down in some of the other ships. It wasn't the best. Again, it was probably the worst service we had of the entire trip. They seemed like they were overwhelmed more there than anywhere else. The food was good, but then we just kind of reverted back to the Marceline Market, kind of doing things at our own pace. The kids aren't huge breakfast people. It's like, let's get some cereal for them. We got some eggs and sausage and kind of moved on. We're not huge foodies when it comes to that stuff. As long as we get some stuff to get us started and get the day going. But we definitely found Marceline Market to be much more crowded than we'd seen cabanas on other ships. So it was just.
I feel like it's the layout. It's that long, skinny layout, and without it being fat in the middle, and in the back, there's nowhere it can't eat the people as well.
Yes, I would completely agree. And maybe I could be completely wrong. It felt like the outdoor seating was smaller, and maybe it's bigger, but it didn't feel like when we went out on deck to try to find some more that there was nearly as many options. And we love if it's not 108 degrees out and in August. But we found one day where it didn't feel that bad out there, but there was nowhere to sit. And it was actually earlier in the morning. So it wasn't like it was prime 9:30, 10 o'clock breakfast time. There just was nowhere to sit. We definitely like the layout of cabanas more than we like Marceline Market.
Should we tell them what your secret place is?
Yeah, maybe.
Are we saying this on the podcast?
We should tell. Yeah, we should tell people. It really is a secret, like a secret spot for Marceline to make it pretty special.
Well, I guess we should finally give away your secret spot, Christy, for Marceline Market. You've been on the ship a couple different times. Did it work for you each time?
Yeah. And actually, it's Amber's secret spot. So if you recall, before Chris and I even sailed, Amber had sailed. She had told us when you walk into Marceline Market, you're going to wash your hands. You're basically going to do like a U-turn once you're in the restaurant to go back towards leaving, but on the sides. And there's this room at the very end on each side that just isn't that crowded most of the time. Now, we did find on would it have been my Labor Day cruise, like at certain times, maybe later, I don't know why I was even in there. Maybe it was lunch that it got a little bit more crowded, like later in the lunchtime. But man, nothing like the rest of Marceline, if you ask me. So you basically...
It seemed like there was... Every time we walked in, they would have 2 or 3 cast members greeting people, but they stood right in front of that entrance. And I kind of was trying to peek my head around, but I never stopped because there's just people there guiding you to where to go eat. And if you just would have gone past them, you're probably in that room you're talking about.
And there's actually like 2 rooms. So there's like the first room, and then you just go one more room back.
There's more back there.
Yes.
And there's a drink station there
where the sinks are then, like the back wall where the sinks are at. That's crazy. I remember the other cast members always just standing there directing people where to go. And I guess all you do is say, excuse me, you could have gone past them.
Yeah. So you basically just do like a U-turn once you get past and out, like where you're sort of looking inside Marceline Market, and then sort of loop back and go all the way to the wall.
I like that.
There's a drink station there too. So
yep. On each side too. There's the one side I feel like had more, and then they do like turn those drink stations off freakishly early, like on disembarkation day, and even in the evening. Yeah, I don't know what that's about either.
Because we always, again, staying on deck 10, we go up one deck, we'd be on deck 11. We would have had into cabanas, always get our drinks filled, and we tried that Marceline Market, and they were off the one time. Now that you say that, I hadn't even really thought about it, so we went on to the pool deck and got it. It wasn't a huge deal, but it's funny you mentioned that. Yep.
So let's go through just some of the other fun things you guys did. Did you guys do the Aqua Mouse?
We did, and we were pleasantly surprised. And I'm not sure if I just went in with low expectations because the first 4 or 5 sailings, people that I had listened to didn't love it. And I'm not sure what I thought they could create on a ship. I didn't have any, illusions of them having some huge roller coaster on there. We thought the show was kind of funny, and maybe it's because I'm following my boys up and they're getting sprayed in the face, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And then I wish the ride portion was a little bit longer, I guess maybe, but we had fun on it. We never waited all that long. We would go at night where the wait was no more than 10 or 15 minutes. it broke down a couple times, but they had it fixed within 5 or 10 minutes. So we never had to wait that long. Now, if you tried going in the middle of the sea day, all right, I'll even say Castaway Day, we came back and we were going to look at it, and it was probably a 45-minute wait. So we just found something else to do, cool off in the pool for a second. But we actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought we would. We went on it probably 4 or 5 times over the course of the sailing. It was all at night. We had a lot of fun on it.
And then you guys played bingo quite a bit. Talk about that a little bit.
We are, I guess it's where we love Disney Cruise Line because there's no casino. We like to gamble a little bit, nothing major, but cruise line, bingo is something where we can go sit down, have a good time, get a couple drink of the days, things like that. So we took my parents the first day, they had fun. And my son came in at the end, my middle son, and all of a sudden got a taste of it. And he unfortunately kind of has our genes. So where there's a chance to win something every time, he then found a way to look in the Navigator app and find every time bingo was, and he started on hearted it on my phone. So every time it was coming up, when's the next bingo session? So we ended up hitting every single bingo session. We got to the last game, which was their blackout, where I think grand prize was 10 grand at that point. No one came close to winning the blackout, but we ended up having 2 of our devices had 1 number to go, and it went through 5 more numbers before there was a winner. So we were standing for a total of 5 calls. And at that point, the jackpot still got up to about $3,800. Which at that point, I'm looking like there's a cruise just for the 2 of us. We could end up putting towards it. So we were standing there, and my son would go from being the most elated person in the world to absolutely crushed when we didn't win. He doesn't understand not winning, unfortunately, but he'll start to figure that out. But yeah, we had a blast with bingo. Luna, we would sit up top. It wasn't nearly as crowded. We found some kind of the high top tables to sit, or high top bars to sit at. So we had a really good view. We could hear really well. Down below seemed much more crowded, where people were kind of sitting on top of each other. But we had a really good spot in there. My daughter played trivia a couple of times with some friends she had met. We're not huge trivia people. We sat in on a couple of them, but we would never come remotely close to winning. So again, I'm a bit competitive. So if I can't win something, I'm not going to go sit there. So we did that a couple times. We're not big movie people. We went and kind of checked out what the theaters look like. And then we kind of roam around the ship and kind of try to find characters as much as we could that weren't going to have drastically long lines. At that point, they were still doing distance meet and greets, which I think was actually nicer because the lines did move a little bit quicker. It just seemed like they moved quicker when they weren't, hugs and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have a problem with that. We did the photo package with 7 of us. So we had a bunch of fun family photos, and the photographers were great. Ed was on there. So he was taking some pictures, and he was fantastic. And, watched some of the shows down in the Grand Hall. The one where it's essentially 20 questions. What's the name of that one?
Yeah.
Where the characters hiding behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
that was a blast. My kids had a blast with that. And they were kind of mad that my wife dragged them there. And then all of a sudden they were in the show and they're having a blast with it. So again, it's what we love about Disney Cruise Line. There's things that just pop up that, you can plan out your day if you want, or you can just walk around the ship and find stuff to do, which is what I think I have now gravitated towards more vacation style than going to the parks and having to plan out your entire day and be on your app the entire time and booking lightning lanes and this, that, and the other. Cruise Line, you can walk around and find stuff to do at all times.
And nothing better than having your kids mad at you because you're dragging them to it and then they end up loving it. So,
wait. So you're right. I will like this.
Don't ever listen to your parents. Do you feel like there's as many characters on the Wish, Christy and Steve, as there are on the other ones? Do you feel like you see them as much around?
I didn't see them roaming around the ship as much. I thought the scheduled times, and when we were on there, they still weren't announcing which characters were out or what time they were always going to be out. But we didn't see them roaming around the ship nearly as much. But we also, our sailing was the highest capacity they had yet. We had 3,700 people on ours. So that was the busiest sailing they had up to that point, capacity to continue to raise. So they were still, I think, feeling out their process at how they were going about some of the crowd control stuff too.
Yeah, I definitely saw characters roaming on our cruises. I never paid attention to what those lines were like on the last cruise, and just didn't see the regular character lineups. I don't know. Our schedule just didn't line up for us to do that. But have you been hearing, Steve, people talking about the characters? I haven't really.
No, I guess we just really haven't talked about the characters very much. So I was just kind of curious to see what you guys thought.
Well, we were looking for them, and they almost had them scheduled. We're out kind of walking around deck 11 and 12 up by the funnels. And we didn't see any characters at the times they were quote unquote supposed to be there, because that's where the cruise back in 2020, the kids remember Chippendale coming up to them and seeing them on the funnel where they're kind of chance experiences. So we kind of tried planning some of those, and they didn't work. It wasn't a huge deal, but we didn't see them roaming around up on deck. That's where you're running into Captain Hook in the past on Pirate Night and things like that. So we definitely didn't see them roaming around as much, but the only one that was not out at all was Stitch. He was the only character of the entire cruise that was not scheduled with. I mean, it's my daughter's favorite character, of course. He's the only one that was not on any schedule. We did not see roaming around any of it. I mean, he just wasn't out for pictures anywhere. We looked from the minute we got on to the minute we got off. Other than that, we got every character we wanted to get. So we found ways to make it work. And kind of the way our family works is if we don't see it this time, we're going to see it again sometime.
On Disney Cruise Line, you can pre-purchase a picture package. Did you guys do that at all? We
absolutely did. Yeah. When we have everybody on there, we've done it. We take advantage of it. The only thing we didn't do this trip was get the kids individual pictures. We don't buy school pictures anymore. So the last cruise we used this as kind of their school pictures, but we did a million, family pictures of the 7 of us, the 5 of us, just the 3 kids, just my wife and I, just my parents and the kids. So we've got, honestly, not even sure we have ordered all of them yet, but we've got them all saved. And I actually love the way they do it, where you can download them now rather than picking up the disc or the jump drive and all that. I thought they did a great job with it. Photographers were awesome. I thought they found a perfect balance of letting you take plenty of pictures, but also not holding up the line for a half hour for every family. I thought they did a really good job kind of mixing that balance for sure.
Yeah, when we waited for the picture that we took on the stairway, it was kind of the same way. It was a long line, but it went by really quick. So I think you're spot on there, Steve, as far as the
I don't even remember waiting in line. Did we wait in line? Was I doing something else? Maybe I was just having fun chatting.
Looking at everybody and looking at people jump down the slide, and yeah, it was great. We got plenty of pictures. Didn't feel like we got cheated on the photo package at all, and got plenty of fun poses, that kind of stuff.
And they have the magic shots that their Disney Cruise Line is really getting into these days. They're on all the ships. So those are always fun to see on your pictures, especially if you're getting the picture package. What about the Incredi course? Did you guys get to experience that at all?
We did. And I think we actually got kind of dumb luck. We knew it was up there, and I forget, I think they had bingo at the same time. We knew it went until, let's say, 2:00. We got up there at 1:45.
Nice.
My kids went on it. The boys went on it probably 7 times in 15 minutes.
Wow.
My wife raced one of them. I raced the other first, and then we let them just keep going.
Was the youngest the fastest?
My middle is they're both athletes. The middle is just tall and slender and got through the obstacle pieces of it. And then the
Incredi course, I really think the littler people typically have an advantage.
So yeah, my wife and I got smoked by the kids. Where you have to dive through the rings. Of course, we all both got stuck. And then we actually went up top, and we watch our kids go through, then watch the rest of the people go through. That may have been the hardest. I laughed the entire time to watch the adults get stuck in the rings and not get out, and then try to crawl themselves out, and their clothing's all over the place. And then they tried climbing up the end. We had a ton of fun there. Now we listened to people complain the rest of the night because the line was forever. And we just must have caught it at the right time, where, again, they went on it 7 or 8 times in 15 minutes. So, again, if you want anything right when it opens up, it's going to have a longer line.
Right. Especially,
that was probably the only good thing we found in that area. I think at that point, the basketball net was hanging by literally a string. They had, a basketball hoop in there that looked like it had been up for 6 years, and it had been up for a week and a half or 2 weeks. I think they've got to keep working on that. But the kids, my boys love ping pong, so they played some ping pong a couple times. And again, there's just a ton of things for us to do. We never sat around going, man, what are we going to do now? There's always something to go do.
So your younger two, it seems like, really enjoyed the kids club. Mm-hmm. What about your daughter? So she's the tween.
Yes, she went in there, met somebody. She met probably 2 or 3 different friends, and then they would go meet there and then roam the ship. And we were hesitant to let her do it, but we said, she's getting old enough. Where's she going to go? She had to check in with us periodically. And she had a good time. She didn't do as much nearly in there, but she met people there that she didn't know ahead of time by any means. And they ended up getting their pictures together and that kind of stuff, and saw some characters together. And she definitely enjoyed it. She got off and she said she liked it much more than she thought she would.
How did she end up meeting them? Did she go to the first night opening meet and greet or whatever?
She ended up not going to that. It was the next morning. She just went let me go check it out. And a couple just happened to be in there. And I think there's actually a video game tournament going on, which she's not part of. And there are a couple other people were the exact same way. And they kind of just hooked up, met up, and then just started roaming the ship. And they went and did a couple trivias together, things like that. So she found ways to, and she's not one that's super outgoing by any means. She's got a close group of friends, but doesn't like meeting new people. But she went and met them, and she definitely had a blast with them.
It's awesome when it works out, especially at that age where you can give them a little bit of freedom and have some fun and let them explore the ships.
That, and we were glad she had fun.
Did she ever end up going into the Oceaneers Club?
She went during open house with us, and she looked around, and she was the age to where she was too old for it in her mind. So I saw her on a corner of my eye trying to enjoy it, but anytime we would come over near her, all of a sudden she didn't like it anymore. She's just at that age. And she was jealous of her brothers until all of a sudden we told her to have fun with it, and she couldn't because she's too old for it. So she's just at that age to where, again, she's 11 going on 21. So
with your boys, was there a certain part of the kids club that they talked about that they enjoyed?
Wherever they had activities. Again, they're not huge Star Wars people, but two of the games that they loved were in the Star Wars room because the Marvel room was closed off for a meet and greet. Wherever they had organized activities, they loved it. And then they would get to meet kids. So when the organized activity would end, they would head to whatever room they could get into. Whether it was the room where they normally have arts and crafts, they would just go hang out in there, they said. We would go check in every hour and a half. And it was, hey, can we have another half hour? Do I have to come eat dinner tonight? Yes, we'll come and eat dinner. Come back when we're done. We'd get out and they'd give us 2 or 3 things they did in an hour and a half stretch, but I knew they had a blast. I mean, come out red-faced and running all over the place, and they had an absolute blast.
Yeah, one little tip especially for our listeners, if you have kids that are loving the kids club, what we've started doing is we will actually go to dinner without my son. So we'll take him to the kids club. We'll know what he's going to eat ahead of time because we can look it up, right? We can see the menu, or we just order for him. But we leave him in the kids club before dinner, go to dinner, get our drinks, place our order, and then go and pick him up. And for the most part, that works out really well because it gives us a little bit more time together, gives him time. He doesn't need to be there at the very beginning of dinner. Like if it's Arendelle, then he can have a choice. Like, do you want to see, or Marvel, do you want to see the beginning of the show, or do you want to have a little bit more time in the kids club? But this works for all the ships. So, parents get a little more time. And then after he eats, sometimes he would just get himself back, or we would take him back to the kids club as well.
Slightly off topic, hitting in that. Do you think they're ever coming back to get the kids after dinner and take them to the kids club?
So it was a feature that existed during second seating. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why they haven't brought it back yet. Now, I don't see them doing it on the Wish ever because that setup, I feel like...
shows, I guess I see that too.
Yeah, there's the shows for 2 of the 3 restaurants, and because it's just so crowded in there.
Yeah, that's true.
How did they even announce it? How did they announce it in the past? Because I don't know that I've ever been in late seating for dinner.
We were out, just her and I were in late seating once, and we saw it. And now that our kids go to the kids club, we thought maybe, hey, that'd be cool. I guess maybe I didn't even think about it. It was only second seating. That was just one cruise.
It is only second seating.
Okay. Yes, we would never do second seating with the kids unless we were a late cruise or late add-on, and that's what we ended up getting. Kids.
In which case, you could also do a request and a wait list to get moved to first dining, and most of the time, those requests are coming through.
Our kids were too old by the time we were staying at second seating, so we never used it. But 1923 is a perfect place to do what you just said, Christy.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect. Get them their food, get them out, and then we could have sat there. And I will say the parents next to us, they got their kids their food, they took them, and then they sat there and ordered 2 bottles of wine. And there was a larger family, and the sisters and the brother-in-laws, whatever, sat there and just they drank quite a bit until essentially they kicked them out each night so they could get second seating in there because we had early seating. So that's what kind of reminded me of, hey, it'd be great if they came and got them after they were done, because they only had so many patients in 1923, because that's where our pirate night was too, was 1923. So there's only so much time they're going to want to sit there.
Right. So we're almost done. But the one thing we haven't talked about is where did you eat lunch every day? Did you go to the sit down? Did you go to our favorite?
We ended up getting Friendship Fair.
Friendship Fair.
We thought it was fantastic. We really did. Again, I think we went in with good expectations where it wasn't going to be the best barbecue we've ever had in our lives, but it was going to be really good food for a ship. We love, the sausage, the pulled pork, the brisket. My son, again, has the most boring palate in the world, got his pizza and chicken fingers and french fries, and he was as happy as could possibly be. So we got there. We weren't going to, Castaway Day, we weren't going to eat on the island, but we were so hungry. We just went and ate there, and then we went back on the ship and ate Friendship Fair as well. We're one of the few people that may not love Castaway's cookies buffet. It's always been okay and sufficient. The food's never been bad. It's just I actually liked Friendship Fair more so than I liked the buffet at Castaway. So we liked Friendship Fair. That's actually, we went there instead of Marshall Market, day we got on the ship. We wanted to try it. It was great. It was a great start to the trip.
Amber would be upset if we didn't ask if you guys had the tacos.
My wife did. She loved them. I'm not a
McDonald's.
huge Tex-Mex or even Mexican fan. My wife had it and she thought they were great. It's her perfect blend of what I would call boring Mexican food. To give me something really nothing spicy, something kind of plain, and she had a blast. The shit was really, really good.
Before we finish up though, really quick, I really wanted to focus on the Wish, and obviously because just she's the newest ship and everything like that. Anything stand out at Castaway? Anything that you want to talk about at Castaway that you guys either like to do or pass on to people?
Going with her and I, we head over to Serenity Bay this trip. We went to the family part. The boys went to what's the kids club there?
Scuttles Cove.
Scuttles Cove. They didn't love it. I went to check about a half hour later, and they both wanted to come out. And we went back up, got back on the ship. The water was warm. They had fun, but the family's not going to sit there for more than a couple hours. So again, we were really hungry, so we ate quickly and then walked back to the ship. We weren't going to make it another 45 minutes by the time we got back to the ship and up to our room and all that kind of stuff. And the beach we can only last there so long.
Totally understand that. Okay, well, before we finish up, anything as far as disembarkation, any problems with that? Or
no, it was as smooth as could be. And I mean, to be honest, we thought it was going to be miserable because we had to drive home, which again is not a short drive from Ohio, but it was easy. It was quick. It was my daughter's birthday. So we went up and she had a little birthday sash on. The cast members were great to her on the way up to Marshall Market for a quick breakfast. We never do the sit down breakfast the last morning. We always go up to the buffet and kind of have more of a leisurely stroll off the ship. And we actually timed it perfect. We waited until the first session was completely off the ship and the second session, it kind of sat down to eat. And it only took us maybe 10 or 12 minutes to get through everything. We were off the ship, grabbed our suitcases. With so many of us, we put our bags out the night before. We down to customs. We were in and through in no time.
I thought it worked out pretty good getting off, or at least the one sailing that we just did recently, Christy, and I know you've been on it a little bit more. So I think they've got things kind of coming along right there compared to some of the other ports. I guess before we finish up, Christy.
Do you not remember the line that we stood in and we came off the elevator, the sea of people?
Oh, well, that was a little bit of a mess, but it was fast. It just kind of
it was a lot of a mess. But yeah.
I think it was more of a mess just because there was like so many people packed in that one little spot, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we timed it. We got lucky. I was terrified of that. When we heard what the capacity was, I'm like, this is going to take us forever.
No, you're a good point there. I would say, I forgot about that part. I was just thinking about like,
once you blocked it out.
Well, yeah, once you get to the customs area, that was pretty easy. Like, anyways, there's like, okay, well, all right. Yeah, you're right. Getting down there with that elevator, it was like, that was a madhouse right there. But once you got on the line, it was fine.
So follow Steven's advice, and either go in between the meals or maybe really wait a lot longer to leave at the end.
Yeah, unless you got a flight. I mean,
sure.
I'd rather get off the ship at 9:00 than 7:00.
The smart Steven, not me, Steve. So you listen to his advice. So, okay, let's talk about advice here then. What kind of tips would you give? And the couple ones I guess I have a question on is like, what tips would you want to give people sailing on the Wish the first time, kind of thinking back on your experiences? And do you have anything as far as, sailing with your parents and whatnot? Anything stand up for that?
No, I think just manage your expectations. If you've been on other ships, realize it's not the dream. It's not the fantasy. It's not the wonder, the magic. It's something completely different. They were going for something different and they achieved it. I think some people are going to love it and some people aren't going to like it as much as other ships. I mean, to be honest, the Dream's our favorite ship. And that's where our next sailing is on the Dream. We love the Wish. We don't regret going on it by any means, but we tend to like the vibe of the Dream better. But I think if you go on it expecting it to be something that it's not, you're probably not going to enjoy it nearly as much. Tip-wise, the one thing I found the most success with through all of our sailings, and the Wish we had a little bit of success, if you don't get the dining rotation you want or the time you want, go down to wherever the location is going to be on embarkation day. You can request a Palo reservation. You can request a different dinner rotation or a time. And the one thing we always request, whether it's the 2 of us, the 5 of us, 7 of us, is a private table. So we always go down on embarkation day and just make double check to see if we have a private table. And if we don't, we're going to request a different rotation. I know some people love going to meet other people. For us, we're not going on the ship to become best friends with anybody else. We'd rather go sit there and have a good time with just us. And so, yeah, going and checking on those reservations ahead of time. And then the other tip I'd have, and we got lucky, and this isn't this cruise, a previous cruise, we checked the app quite a bit for a cabana. We scored a Serenity Bay cabana, just the 2 of us. It was literally just by, I call it stalking, or whatever you want to say. And just because you check once and it's not available doesn't mean it won't become available. And if you get on, call and put a request in for cabana. I mean, I know they hold so many for concierge. The Wish is probably tougher than other sailings, but if you call and put a request in, I've heard several people on trip reports, get success of concierge calling them, say, hey, Cabana just opened up. Would you guys want one? So just 'cause it's not on that, on the app as you're, going through your choosing activities and stuff like that, don't be afraid to ask when you get on.
So you guys have the Dream sailing coming up. Is that a Halloween on the Highs or Maritime?
It is. It is actually a 40th birthday / 15th anniversary trip. End of my kind of crazy travel season. It's my first time sailing out of Miami, and it's a 5-night sailing when we've only been able to do 4 in the past. So it's 1 extra night, which I'm looking forward to. First trip to Cozumel and 2 sea days. So we're pretty excited to get out of town for a little bit. And again, to be honest, get back on the Dream. That's our kind of, it was my first ship, my wife's first Disney ship. And we just love the layout of it. And we've gotten to know some of the cast members, hoping to get our same dining team. And we just love the layout of that ship. So yeah, that's next for us here in a few weeks.
And we all love our kids, but it's nice to get some free time away from them too, and just to reconnect and have a good time together. It
was ingrained in me when I was growing up. My parents went on little getaways here and there. We do the same thing. And again, the kids are, tortured to go spend the week at grandma and grandpa's. Well, there's no rules for, 5 or 6 days, and they get to do whatever they want. So by no means do they ever get upset when they get to go spend the week there.
Do they know you're going on a Disney cruise though?
Yeah. Yeah. We've taken little 3 and 4 day trips when we were, DVC member, and we're still DVC members. We go to the parks, and we've done, and this will be our 4th cruise, just the 2 of us, and the kids have never not known we've going to do it. They understand what we're going to do. And I don't know, I've always been taught that, if they can see that, mom and dad are going to spend some time together, they're good with it. And yeah, it's something that, her and I need. And again, the kids are in good hands by all means.
If you get the ability to do it, I think it's nothing but a positive for you.
We are very, very
and
fortunate.
For the kids too. So
we count our lucky stars for sure.
Yeah. Well, happy 40th birthday coming up. Just have a wonderful cruise. And Christy, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think it sounded like a great family vacation, and, loved hearing about it.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you had a busy weekend. I'm glad that it went well for you guys this weekend. And thanks for taking time to share your experiences and your thoughts about the Disney Wish. I'm glad you guys had just an amazing vacation. I wish you and your wife all the best as you sail on the Disney Dream. And I guess I'll see you on Twitter. And anytime you want to come back on and talk to some Disney cruise, I would love to have you come back on.
Thanks. One last thing. On behalf of all of your listeners, you guys provide 2 things, in my opinion: great entertainment anytime you guys release a new episode, and great information. And those are 2 things I think anytime you're going on a trip, it helps people plan for it. And to be honest, you guys are great entertainment. The rapport the 2 of you have with Chris is really, it's entertaining to kind of take the listeners' minds off of, unfortunately, our real world troubles at times. And I think you guys have done a really good job. So I appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And really, the secret sauce to our podcast is you guys, all our listeners, and people like you coming on and sharing your experiences so that we all can travel a little bit better. And Disney Cruise Line gets us away from the real world. And I can't wait to get back on a cruise.
Well, I hear you there.
Anyways, well, once again, Steve, thanks so much. All the best to you guys. And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.